Good evening, friends, and welcome to Live 365, episode 6. Woo! Today's topic is forgetfulness. For instance, I completely forgot to upload this video last night. Whoops. So I wanted to draw from my own experience and talk a little bit about forgetfulness, not necessarily the science behind that, but just little tips and tricks that you can do to help yourself remember or help your efficiency and your productivity. So the first thing that I have to say in defense of us being forgetful is that there are too many things to think about. There's too much to do all the time. We are flooded with information. We live in a high information packed society now. There are articles galore. There are emails galore. There's just too much to wrap our brain around. And if you expect that you will be able to remember everything, then you are fooling yourself. For example, whenever I'm performing a piece of music, let's say that I'm playing something on the piano for a concert, I scribble like crazy notes all over my page so that I remember to do things. Specific fingerings that are tripping me up, whether I'm going to get louder or softer at anywhere. I riddle my score with markings because I cannot trust myself to remember anything, nor should I. I'm just making things easier by writing it down. So the first thing that I would have to offer is to say you have to know yourself, and you can't expect yourself to be Superwoman or Superman. You just can't. It doesn't work that way. You can't say, well, I totally have my stuff together and I am able to remember everything. Listen, I have a really, really good memory. I think that I have my stuff together most of the time, but I trip up. Everybody trips up. And so be realistic about your expectations for yourself. Don't ride yourself too hard and really harp on yourself to try to remember everything, because you can make it easier for yourself. So the other thing that people really enjoy, there are a myriad of apps and things out there that you can put on your tablet or your phone or your smart device. And those are really, really helpful. For example, calendars, sticky notes, reminders. You can set reminders with specific days and times that'll remind you to do stuff. And that may work for some people, but it doesn't work for all people. For example, I cannot set reminders on my phone because it will go off and say, hey, reminder, you have to do that. And then I'll say, yeah, okay. And then I'll hit the dismiss button and then I'll forget about it later. So that thing doesn't work for me. So there's not one way that works for everybody else. So I just want to offer you a few different ways that you could think about these things to help your productivity. So the first thing that I would say is, are you a more pen and paper type of person, or are you more of a technologically savvy person? Now, I'm a little bit of both. I really like to do a lot of things on my phone. It saves time. For example, I really love to put my calendar on my phone. That really helps me when I have specific appointments. Okay, I'm teaching a voice lesson at this time. Okay, I've got this meeting at work at this time, this at this time, etc., etc., etc. When I have specific times that I need to do things at specific days and times, my calendar app is a godsend because I cannot remember anything anywhere else. When I know that things fall on a specific day and time, I plug it into my calendar, and the first thing that I do when I turn on my phone that day is I look at my calendar and I say, okay, here are the serious appointments that I have to do this day. But I find that it's not helpful for me to put down, okay, in my calendar app, well, I have to do this, and this task this day at some point during the day. That just doesn't help me out because I don't check there consistently. I only check there in the morning once. And so I know that about myself. I will only check my calendar once a day. And so that's not a good app to put things to remind myself to do things. Now, I'm much more of a pen and paper type of person. I'm much more inclined to look at a written down to-do list than I am to look at my phone to-do list. And I tried an experiment. I downloaded a reminders and notes, sticky notes app, and I put it on my phone. And I said, you know what? I'm going to save a lot of trees. I'm going to stop writing myself crazy sticky notes. I'm going to put everything in my phone. And that way I can just rely on my phone and life is good. And I do look at my phone for a lot of things, but I found that I wasn't clicking on that reminders app a lot because I'm working. There's a lot of things going around my day, and I just found that I wasn't clicking on it as much as I should, and then I missed things, and I said, oh crap, I was going to do that day. So that's not as helpful for me. What works really well for me is actually writing down a to-do list the night before. So usually what I do in the evenings after I get home from work, I say, okay, all right, I decompress. This is what I got done today. What do I need to do tomorrow? What do I really, really want to get done tomorrow? Okay, write my little to-do list for the next day. That solves a couple of issues for me. One, I can sleep better at night because I'm not worried that I'm going to forget to do something that was on my brain the previous day. It's already on paper. I don't have to think about it anymore because it's on paper. That paper will remind me tomorrow. So it actually helps me sleep at night. It's a stress relief. Also, it gives me a specific set of tasks that I can just take that piece of paper, I can put it in my coat pocket. And then once I'm at work, I can take that and I can slap it right on my desk, right by my computer, and I can just quickly glance at it. It doesn't require, okay, logging into my phone, doing my password to unlock my phone, then clicking on the reminders app. It's just instantaneous. It's right there in front of my face. So that's really helpful for me, just writing myself little to-do notes. Now, if you're the kind of person that misplaces your to-do list, then I think sticky notes are a great option. For example, sometimes if I think that I'm really going to be out of it in the morning, then the previous day, or like I keep sticky notes in my car, and what I'll do is I'll put a sticky note on my steering wheel and I'll write, don't forget, blah, blah, blah. And then in the morning when I'm sort of brain dead and I got my coffee and I'm like heading to work, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do that because the sticky note is right there on my car because I know that I'm going to drive my car every day. And so that's a really good way for me to remind myself to do things. You need to put notices in places that you will look often. For example, if you're on your computer for most of the day, put notices on your computer. Some people have that little app, like let's say you have a Mac computer and you go into like that little gray out screen, you have a little sticky note right there. My coworker uses that. I put actual sticky notes on my computer to remind myself, and then I wash it off feverishly when the glue residue is left behind because I'm a weirdo. But you just have to know what your tendencies are, and you have to put something in a place that you know you're going to look frequently. If that means a list on your phone, that you will look on that list frequently, great. If that means writing it down and putting a to-do list in your pocket like me, great. If that means putting sticky notes all over your house so that you get it done, and then when you can get it done, you can viscerally rip off that sticky note off the wall and say, ha, I got it done, and throw it in the garbage. I love crossing off things on my to-do list, that visceral act. It just helps me feel like I have my life together for some reason. So know your tendencies. Will you look at that app? Will you open that calendar? Will sticky note on your car actually jog your memory, or will you say, yeah, okay, whatever, and forget about it later? You just have to figure out what works for you. Empower yourself and empower others to help you too. My husband's the kind of person where if I say, hey, remind me to do that, okay? He'll be like, yeah, okay. He'll remind me like 3 days later, and I'll be like, dude, I told you to remind me this afternoon, 3 days ago. So he'll remember, but he'll remember too late. So I write him a lot of, like hubby to-do lists, and then that helps him because it's right there on the coffee table in front of him when he gets home. And, oh, okay, great. She wanted me to take out the trash. Great. Okay, no problem. So I'm a pen and paper kind of gal, but you have to find out what works for you. Let's see. Oh, so the other thing is that I do have to-do lists on my phone, but they're to-do lists that aren't of immediate importance. So eventually I need to get XYZ done. So if it's an eventually that it doesn't really have a strict time frame, then it actually goes on an app on my phone. Because if I write down a to-do list of everything in life that I want to get done with no sort of set priority, then it's going to become a really overwhelming list, and I find that it stifles my ability to do things. But if I find 3 things in a day that I really want to get done on top of my daily duties, I'm not talking about like 3 things I want to get done, brush my teeth, comb my hair. No, those are things that you already get done. You know that you're going to get done, but 3 extra things that you want to get done, just concentrate on those 3 things. And then the next day, okay, what 3 things can I get done? If you concentrate on just the little snippets, you're more likely to get it done because you're less likely to become overwhelmed. If you make a to-do list of everything in life you want to do and expect to get it done in one day, that's crazy, right? So that's one thing that's really helpful for me. I put on my phone a list of eventual to-dos, and then wherever you want, a list of immediate to-dos for that day. One other thing that really helps me out in terms of trying to remember what I'm supposed to do, let's say I have to go to the bank, I have to get groceries, and I have to do laundry. I like to string them together in my brain, and that really helps me remember what's going on and also what sequence I want to do. So if I'm at work and I say, okay, I need to go to the bank, I need to go to the grocery store, and I need to do laundry. Well, which one is closest to work? The bank is closest to work, so I'm going to go to the bank first. I'm going to drive to the bank, and I visualize driving to the bank. And then from that bank, I'm going to go to that grocery store. Okay, I'm going to go to Walsh's Market because that's the closest one to my house. So from the bank to Walsh's Market, and I map it out in my head and I say, okay, I visualize the drive. I'm going to go to the bank and then I'm going to go to the grocery store and then I'm going to get home and do laundry. Now, what's going on with the laundry? Are the clothes already downstairs in the basement or do I need to carry it down from upstairs? So visualizing not only the chore at hand, but also the order and the sequence and where you're going to go from A to B to C is really, really helpful. So you remember what you have to do without getting overwhelmed about what you're doing. So put them in a sequence that actually makes sense, and that way you're really going to help your efficiency as well. So that's one thing that really helps me out and sort of keeps me on track and keeps me from being absent-minded or inversely from being too overwhelmed by my to-do list. One last thing is move slower, move more slowly. We are in a high intensity, fast-paced, instant gratification, going, busy, crazy, busy, work-life balance is not a thing lifestyle. I am constantly striving for work-life balance, and I always have to tell myself, Sarah, it's okay. You can move more slowly. You really can. It's not a problem. And I find that when I move more slowly in my daily tasks, not only am I executing things better, I have the time to process what I'm doing, what I want to do next. It helps me not to get overwhelmed. For example, today I had to make this very convoluted bulletin for the church service tomorrow that I was trying to plan. And I also had to print out a bunch of copies of music for the gospel choir rehearsal tonight. And I had all sorts of stuff on my plate at work. And I said, you know what? I'm going to print out the stuff for the gospel choir first. Print that out. Okay, now all I'm going to concentrate on are just stapling those things that need stapling for the rehearsal so that people can look and it's in booklet form and it's all nice and pretty so they're not shuffling with pages. Cool, stapled. Now I'm going to go place that music where it needs to go for rehearsal tonight. Good. Now that I'm back at my desk, okay, now I'm going to put the bulletins together and then I can do that. So I found that if I just took a step back and said, okay, I'm going to do things one thing at a time and move slowly. I'm not going to get overwhelmed. It really actually helped my efficiency, and I was able to get a ton done at the end of my day today. So I hope these were helpful. Make lists, prioritize them, figure out your tendencies. Don't pretend like you're a superhero who can remember everything, because you're not. Nobody is, all right? People can be really good at remembering things, but nobody's perfect. So figure out what your tendencies are, what will work best for you, how you can make lists, string lists together so you can remember the sequence in which you want to do things, and just take the time to move a little bit more slowly and practice a little bit more mindfulness about where you're going, what you're doing. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a great evening.